Welcome in to another episode of The Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters, and I'm so glad you decided to join us for this fabulous little half hour where we're going to talk all things motorsports, because we had a packed weekend of racing this past weekend, and we have an even more packed weekend of racing this weekend. NASCAR was in Phoenix, and now they're getting ready to go out to Las Vegas, taking the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series there. Formula One is back again after the off season. The 2025 Formula One season kicks off this weekend in Melbourne, and they'll be joined on that circuit by the Supercars. They'll be racing their Melbourne SuperSprint over the course of that weekend. And also we've got more races to talk about. The 12 Hours of Sebring is coming up this weekend as well. So a lot of racing on the schedule for this weekend. So before we jump into the news segment, be sure to follow me if you like this show. You could find me on social media at rpeeters33. That's RPEETERS 33, and also be sure to subscribe to WTHR on YouTube so that you can get notifications whenever the new Racing Report episodes drop. So let's go ahead and start off with the news segment for today's show, and that, as always, will begin in the Formula One world, especially since we've got the first race of 2025 coming up this weekend. So, big news here. The Cadillac Formula One team has officially received final approval to become the 11th team on the grid in the 2026 Formula One season. Additionally, they have committed to a U.S. base for the team. Now, they will operate out of Andretti Global's new facility in Fishers, Indiana. So, if you're in Indiana, get ready. Formula One cars are going to be built in the Indianapolis area, which is crazy. But also they'll have bases in North Carolina, Michigan, as well as a base in England. Now, the Indianapolis Star reports that F1 cars will indeed be built on that Fishers facility. Now, more news on this front is team principal Graham Lowdon told the media that the team will only hire American drivers based on merit. So they're not going to hire somebody just because they're American and they have their required super license points. They have to also have the statistics to back it up. So maybe Colton Herta, maybe someone else, maybe someone not American at all, could be an IndyCar driver, also could be a Formula One vet. Lots of bets being placed right now on who will occupy those two seats coming up here in a year's time when the Cadillac F1 team officially hits the Formula One grid. Now, let's talk about some big news for Australian fans. Not only are they getting to kick off the Formula One season this year, but also they're going to have one of their own on the grid for an extended period of time, because McLaren has announced that Oscar Piastri has signed a multi-year extension with the team, keeping him in there for I don't know how long, but it's a multi-year deal. No real details given on how long the deal is going to be, but we do know that Oscar Piastri is going to be behind the wheel of a McLaren for the indefinite future. Now, for the final piece of Formula One news here as part of the show, Stefano Domenicali will remain the CEO of Formula One through at least the end of 2029 after signing a new 5-year deal with Liberty Media. Now, remember, he replaced Chase Carey after 2021 and has basically been leading Formula One for the last several years. I think he's made some decent decisions. He made some good decisions, but obviously, anytime you got a CEO of Formula One, they're going to be a little bit controversial, but interesting to see how Stefano Domenicali is going to stick around, and we'll see what the rest of his tenure as F1 CEO brings, however long that lasts, if it ends in 2029, or if they decide to re-sign him, or maybe it could end earlier than that. Who knows? Anything can happen in the world of Formula One. We'll just have to find out. Now let's move on into some IndyCar news, because we do still have a couple weeks before they return to the track at Thermal Club. But we got Indy 500 news over the course of the week. Takuma Sato is returning to the Indianapolis 500 and with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing to drive the number 79 Honda this year in the 109th Indianapolis 500. That pushes the total entry list now to 34 cars, which basically guarantees that bumping will be happening. So there's been also rumors about a potential 35th car, maybe for Catherine Legg. Remember, she made her NASCAR Cup Series debut over the last weekend in Phoenix. There's heavy rumors that she could also return to the Indianapolis 500. Had pretty decent runs the last couple of years in qualifying and in the race. Obviously, when she doesn't crash, but, hey, Crashes happen to everybody. It is what it is. Takuma Sato coming back, looking to get that third Indy 500. Hopefully, Sato's expertise will maybe help that team for the future. Maybe hoping that they don't have the qualification errors that they have had the last several years. Now let's move on into some IMSA news because, like I said earlier at the top of the show, we've got the 12 Hours of Sebring coming up this weekend. Now, in that race, two-time FIA World Endurance Champion, or WEC, I still call it WEC. Maybe I'm just old school like that. But Jose Maria Lopez, he's going to drive the number 14 Vasser Sullivan Lexus this weekend because Ben Barnicoat injured himself during a mountain biking accident, and that timeline for a return has not been determined. So Jose Maria Lopez, you're familiar with him. He's won, like I said, two-time FIA World Endurance Champion, and then also he has run Formula E in the past, and he's also I believe he was also with Penske's prototype team as well. So some decent chops there in the world of sports cars. Definitely not a bad replacement at all if you have to get one. So definitely could be a lot worse there for the Vasser Sullivan Lexus crew. Now let's move on into the Supercars news of the week because we've got a lot to break down here, especially if you're not familiar with the series down under, because just one round into the 2025 Supercar Series, so that's 3 races, the first round, which was at Sydney, Blanchard Racing Team, or BRT, has split with driver Aaron Love. Now, the statement said that the split came, quote, at the request of Aaron Love. So that is very interesting. Now, we know Aaron Love had a handful of incidents in the first round in practice, qualifying, and in the races. So this could have been in the works, I guess. Last season for BRT wasn't exactly maybe what they were looking for. So now they've tapped Aaron Cameron. So they're sticking with one. They're kicking one Aaron out and bringing in another Aaron. Aaron Love out, Aaron Cameron in. Obviously, they must like that name. But if you're unfamiliar with Aaron Cameron, he is the 2023 S5000 champion. And if you don't know what S5000 is, think Australian IndyCar with an engine that sounds like a late 90s IRL car, except they race on road courses all across Australia. It's actually pretty neat. It's actually pretty cool. The cars sound really cool. They race okay. They race about as much as you'd expect a junior single-seater Formula car to race, but still, it's a competitive series, and it has been a stepping stone to supercars in the past. Also, Aaron Cameron won 2 Super 2 races last year for Kelly Racing. So there's some prestigious there. Now, if you're not unfamiliar with Super 2, it's basically just the Supercars development series. Think of it like the Xfinity series or the Indy Next series over here in the States. It's basically just that. They run older Supercars chassis that are no longer used. So they're still running Holdens and Fords, and some of them are even running, well Super 3 was running them. I don't know if they're running them anymore since that series has been done away with, but they were running some of the Nissan Altimas that used to run with the Kelly Racing team back in the mid-2010s. So, but also, it's important to note that, again, he's got TCR Australia experience. He's got Super 2 experience. He's got ran as a co-driver with Aaron Love, ironically, last year at Bathurst for BRT. But he was also in the Formula Regional Middle East Championship over the course of the last couple of months. Now, if you're not familiar with that, it's a Formula Regional series. So think like Formula 3, Formula 4 style cars, and they all run across different regions. They have like Italian Formula 4 and Formula Regional European Championships, Formula Regional Americas. So all these different types of different championships for junior formula all across the world. And usually the Middle Eastern Championship occurs during the winter when there's not a lot of racing going on, and also when it's probably ideal climates in the Middle East. But he did run that season last year, or excuse me, this past season in 2025. Obviously, withdrew from the final round, didn't start one of the earlier races, finished 18th in points. Could be a number of reasons. Doesn't necessarily mean that he was a bad driver. He looked okay in some of those races. So I'll be curious to see how Aaron Cameron does in his first real supercars start coming up this weekend at the Melbourne SuperSprint. But as we talk about that, we have some also big news in the world of supercars. Again, if you are unfamiliar with supercars, you are going to get a crash course lesson here in the next couple of minutes. But Craig Lowndes, three-time supercars champion, has won many races, has been in the series for decades and decades. Recently, semi-retired after about, I believe, 2019, and went into a role where he's only racing the endurance races for AAA Racing. Well, he announced this week that he's leaving after 21 seasons with AAA Racing, so dating back all the way to 2005. Craig Lowndes said that the end of this year, the end of the 2025 season, will mark his final year with AAA Racing. Now, what's interesting is Craig Lowndes is actually 50 years old, and he says he's not done. This is not a retirement. He's not retiring. He's simply moving to another GM-based team. Now, remember, we talked about this in a couple of previous Racing Report episodes, that Ford is going to be the main, AAA Racing is going to be running Fords next year. So Craig Lowndes, knowing this, he's run Fords in the past. AAA Racing has also run Fords in the past. Craig Lowndes has run Fords with AAA Racing. But he says he's brand loyal. He prefers driving GM. He wants to continue to drive a GM car. So he's going to move to some unannounced Chevrolet team in the future to run the endurance races, which, more power to him, I say. But definitely some big bombshell news there. Craig Lowndes leaving AAA Racing after 21 years. As somebody who's been watching supercars only for maybe the last 10 or 12 years, this is going to be a shock thing to see. I don't think I was ever prepared to see Craig Lowndes not drive behind the wheel of a number 888 car or a AAA Racing GM-based Holden, Chevrolet, what have you. Going to take some very, very big getting used to there. So that is it for the supercars news. Now let's talk about the NASCAR news, because there's a lot of it to discuss before we move in and take our first break here in a couple of minutes. But before we do take that break, let's talk about the NASCAR news, because the first piece of news that we are going to discuss today is that NASCAR says it is currently in a quote-unquote holding pattern regarding the future of California Speedway. Now, they admitted over the weekend in Phoenix that they are still not sure where and when that transformation will be complete. So if you haven't seen the latest drone footage or aerial footage of what Auto Club Speedway looks like now, the former California Speedway, former Auto Club Speedway, again, all of the track except for the front stretch has been completely torn up. So turns 1, 2, 3, 4, the backstretch, all of that's gone. It's all been destroyed. It's all been ripped up. And especially where turn 1 is now a warehouse. It is entirely a warehouse. And they are continuing to build different warehouses on that property. Now, what's interesting about this is NASCAR, if you haven't seen it, the initial blueprint for this track was supposed to be obviously a short track akin to kind of Martinsville, Bristol, Richmond, something like that, depending on where the track the track could be built. If you've seen this, I don't know how they're going to fit the turn in between that warehouse that's sitting there now, where turn 1 used to be. Now, keep in mind, they have left all of the existing infrastructure. So the grandstands, the press box, the luxury boxes, the pit lane, as well as the garage area. It's all still there. It is all still there. It is just everything around it. The track is gone. It has been ripped up. It is all dirt now. And NASCAR really doesn't seem to have an idea of what they're going to do with this land. They obviously are committed to racing in Southern California, but at this time, they don't have a permanent course. And it makes me think that they fully think this one through. I talk about that a little bit on my podcast. You can listen to that, Rob and Roller, the Racing with Rob and Roller podcast. Find that wherever you get your podcasts. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Like I said, you can go ahead and listen to that. You can hear my thoughts on what happens there. But that's the big news about NASCAR in Southern California so far right now. Moving on into the next piece of news, Connor Zilisch told SiriusXM NASCAR Radio that he does not have any additional Cup races planned for the rest of the year, saying that the team wants to focus on the 3 cars that they have, the team being Trackhouse Racing, rather than continue to spend money fielding a 4th car. I hope that changes, but I see where a Trackhouse is definitely coming from there. Now, more NASCAR news here. NASCAR has officially announced some changes to the open exemption provisional. Now, we talked about the open exemption provisional before the season started, and we discussed how Helio Castroneves was taking advantage of it in the Daytona 500 and all the things that he had to do in order to have that be guaranteed for him. NASCAR has now changed that. NASCAR says instead of having to qualify, you're just in. You don't have to worry about, missing the show or whatever. If 40 cars show up, more than 40 cars show up, you're going to be the 40th car entered. Plain and simple as that. So that's the main thing you need to keep in mind. Basically, that anybody who applies and gets granted this OEP, they don't have to worry about qualifying on time in order to not have to be eligible for it. Once you're eligible for it, you could reckon qualifying for all NASCAR cares. So that's the biggest change that you need to be aware of now when we go forward and seeing what other teams and drivers might apply for this here in the future. Now, this is also big in the NASCAR world. There's been serious rumors floating around all over the internet that apparently the NASCAR Cup race and Xfinity race in Mexico City could be canceled. Well, where's this coming from, you might wonder? Well, simply put, a lot of people have been, giving this rumor out on the internet based on logistical errors, political tensions between the United States and Mexico. A lot of different reasonings have been provided for this, but NASCAR came out and said, no, none of that's true right now. We are, as far as we are concerned, we are moving ahead to race at Mexico City in June. Now, that's, again, keep in mind the logistical problems with this. Keep in mind, they're going from Michigan Speedway, Michigan International Speedway, all the way up in Brooklyn, Michigan, and they have a week to get all of their stuff down to less than a week, or actually less than a week. They have less than a week to go from Michigan all the way down to Mexico City. Now, if you're someone like me who goes to the Michigan race every year, you know that rain is a possibility, and that race might be postponed, or something might happen to prevent that race from getting completed on its scheduled date. So, again, a lot of people are concerned about that. The big rumor is that NASCAR would then replace it, obviously, with a race at the Daytona Road Course, much like they did in 2021 when they replaced the race at California Speedway, which we were just talking about, with a race on the Daytona Road Course. Again, NASCAR has said that as far as as of right now, that is not the case. That is not going to happen. They are committed to holding that race in Mexico City in June 13th through the 15th. So we will see where that goes. Next piece of news here. Team AmeriVet says that they will return to the track later this month in Martinsville, bringing short track ace Burt Myers back to drive the number 50 Chevrolet. So that is great news for Burt Myers and everybody who cheered him on during the clash at Bowman Gray, especially before and after he got punted by Ricky Stenhouse, or maybe wrecked himself, depending on who you ask. And then ThorSport Racing in the Truck Series has signed 18-year-old Luke Baldwin to drive multiple races this season in the number 66 Ford F-150 for the team. His first race will be, again, later this month at Martinsville. And if you're unfamiliar with him, you just need to know that he is an 18-year-old Smart Modified champion. So he's already a champion in the Smart Modified Tour. I think that probably means that you should have at least a truck start, right? And he's definitely getting that. So good news for him there. And then the final piece of NASCAR news here before we take a break. Carl Edwards, and I kid you not, the Carl Edwards, the same Carl Edwards who abruptly retired at the end of the 2016 season, is coming back. He's going to be Prime Video's newest studio analyst when NASCAR comes to Prime later this summer for the first time. And Prime also announced their pit reporters. They will be Trevor Bade, Marty Snyder, and Kim Coon. So we now have a more solid broadcast lineup. We know who's going to be on that broadcast for Prime Video later on this year. But Carl Edwards, I have always said Carl Edwards is a natural-born broadcaster. I always expected when his Cup career ended, he would go into the broadcast booth. He would be an analyst, color commentator. Somehow he's going to be a studio analyst. So good for Carl Edwards. And by the way, not to plug another show on my show, but if you haven't listened to the Dale Jr. Download episode from this week where he talks to Carl Edwards, I highly recommend you do that because Carl Edwards gives probably the most insight to why he stepped away from NASCAR ever. So if you've been wondering, really, I need a reason to know why Carl Edwards stepped away, check out this week's Dale Jr. Download. You'll have all those answers. Those questions will be answered. All right, that is it for the news segment of the Racing Report. When we come back, we are going to recap everything that happened in the last weekend of NASCAR racing, the ARCA race series race on Saturday, as well as the Cup Series race on Sunday. So don't go anywhere. You are watching the Racing Report. And welcome back to another episode of the Racing Report. Now we are talking all things NASCAR in Phoenix here real quick. We're getting you ready for the upcoming weekend in Las Vegas. We'll get to that in a little bit, but for now, we'll talk about the ARCA race in Phoenix. If you missed this very controversial, very wild, very interesting, a lot of close finishes this weekend at Phoenix, you'll start to notice that as a theme going forward. So the first thing we want to mention here first is Butterbean Queen, Brendan Butterbean Queen, as we've talked about after the ARCA race at Daytona. He was in position to probably win 2 in a row in Phoenix until a late race accident, or a late race spin. Car spun coming to, I think it was Tim Vane's spun coming with a handful of laps to go. They threw caution and lined him up and said, okay, we're going to go overtime. And then when they go into overtime, it's a simple restart. And surprisingly enough, Thad Moffitt was like 3rd or 4th. And I think he was having the best run he'd ever had in ARCA, in trucks, and literally anything that I've seen him run in. Running up there in the top 5, had a very legitimate shot at a win. And, well, contact with Tyler Reif. Basically what happens here is if you see my hands, Reif comes down just a little bit, and yeah. And Thad Moffitt thought he could make the move on the inside right before the pit exit wall. Nope, contact, slams him into the inside wall there, destroys Taylor Reif's car, just completely destroys it. And now we got to rack him up and do it all over again. And what happens when we rack him up and do it all over again? We get a last lap shootout between Butterbean and Brent Cruz. Now, Brent Cruz holds on. He basically gets underneath Butterbean, coming in the last corner, just slides him up. Now, Butterbean seemed to say, oh, he made contact. He just nudged me. I watched that replay over and over and over again. And maybe I'm blind. Maybe I can't see very well, but I watched that replay over and over again. From every angle I can see, I don't think Brent Cruz touched him. Now, I do think that Brent Cruz absolutely forced him up into the gray area and up into the marbles a little bit maybe, but I don't know that he touched him so much. But definitely it was a photo finish. Brent Cruz getting his 3rd career ARCA win, first with Joe Gibbs Racing. And that set the stage for the Xfinity Series race on Saturday, which we saw a lot of carnage and just lots of things happening. But then we had the finish of a lifetime there between Eric Almirola holding off Alex Bowman. Again, it's like former Cup driver, current Cup driver, beats Brandon Jones, current Xfinity driver. But hey, believe me, if you're Brandon Jones, you were probably thrilled to just have that 3rd place finish, because he's had nothing but bad luck all last year and so far this year, just getting caught up in accidents. Now, finally, Brandon Jones goes out there and he's like, yeah, 3rd. Almost could have won it had the 2 leaders wrecked themselves, But good job for him, definitely. I've always thought that Brandon Jones is a good driver, a very talented driver, just has a lot of bad luck come his way. Definitely not a Cup caliber driver, but for sure someone who could be an Xfinity Series lifer and make a good living doing that. But that was the Xfinity race. Now let's talk about some of the Cup Series race that we saw. Boy, man, let me tell you something. Christopher Bell, 3 different races he has won. For the last 3 races he has won: Atlanta, Circuit of the Americas, and now Phoenix. Those are 3 completely different racetracks. And honestly, they're not anything like one another. And Christopher Bell has gone out and done something that hadn't been done since 2021, hadn't been done in the next-gen car. Like, the next-gen car has been notorious for just, not notorious, but famous for creating so much parity within the Cup Series. And now you get Christopher Bell to go out there and win on 3 separate types of tracks in 3 successive race weekends. That is unheard of. And if you are not picking him for a possible title run, I think you should reconsider, because we're now going to Las Vegas, which is one of Christopher Bell's better tracks. He's won here before. He could have probably won last year in the fall race. Christopher Bell has been very, very good at Las Vegas. I would very much expect him to be a contender to possibly get 4 in a row and become the first driver to win 4 in a row since Jimmy Johnson accomplished the feat back in 2007. And he would also match something way back to 1992 when Bill Elliott started the season with 4 straight wins. These are all things that have not happened in a long time, and Christopher Bell very well has the opportunity to do it. Now, another thing I want to talk about in the Phoenix race was just how well the option tire worked. If you were familiar with it, the option tire was thrown in to this race. NASCAR is evaluating it to see if it'll be used in the championship race. You want my opinion? I loved this. This adds an extra layer of strategy and excitement to what would have been, I think, probably a little bit of a dull race. I mean, Phoenix races have typically been not super entertaining with this next-gen car. But man, with the addition of that option tire, highly recommend they keep that for short tracks, all short tracks. I would like to see it implemented at Bristol. I'd like to see it be used at Martinsville. I'd like to see it be used at North Wilkesboro. Obviously, it's been used at Richmond before. I think it should be used at Richmond before again. And honestly, why not? Throw it at Iowa. Try it at Iowa, too. Any track that's less than a mile in length, I think we can do option tires on and have it be pretty successful, as well as road courses. I would definitely like to see NASCAR implement an option tire on road courses. Now, we are going to take another break, but when we come back, we are going to preview all of the races that are coming up this weekend. And let me tell you, there's a lot of them. We've got a lot to preview, so do not go anywhere. You are watching The Racing Report. All right, and welcome back to The Racing Report. We have a lot of races coming up this weekend, so let's take a look at what we've got. NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series are in Las Vegas. Like we mentioned before the break, Christopher Bell is looking to become the first driver to win 4 straight races since Jimmy Johnson in 2007, and this is one of his better tracks. So it's not a far-fetched possibility that he very well could get this done. I am of the opinion that Las Vegas is, again, it's one of those 1.5 mile tracks that has been really, really good for the next-gen car. So you're probably going to get a really enjoyable race on Sunday. I fully expect that to be the case. But you know what I also expect? I also expect it to be a hotly contested one, because a lot of people are going to be looking to dethrone Christopher Bell and Joe Gibbs Racing, who have honestly had a great start to the season overall, sans Ty Gibbs. But on that point, I think Ty Gibbs is at a track that suits his style. So when we talk about, all right, well, you got to look at the last 10 races for Ty Gibbs. He's got a 29th place average finish, all this stuff. I think that after last week at Phoenix, he had a possible top 15 finish going, top 10 run going, cut a tire late in the race. I think if that kind of thing doesn't happen this week, I very well think that you could see Ty Gibbs finally pull himself out of this slump, whatever slump he's in, and get back to finishing top 5, top 10s, maybe even score his first ever Cup Series win. That is what I'm looking forward to the most when the Cup Series reaches Las Vegas. Now, let's talk about the Formula One season. It's kicking off in Melbourne, so get ready. If you're over here on the East Coast on Saturday night, you're going to be watching the race probably up until about 2 or 3 in the morning. Sorry, that's just how the Formula One season is going to start. And there are a lot of pre-season questions, pre-race questions going on. How's Lewis Hamilton going to do in Ferrari? I think he looked pretty good in testing, but again, that's just testing. Carlos Sainz also set the fastest time over the 3 test days in Bahrain. So, maybe, but I'm not expecting the Williams to be all that more competitive just because it has Albon and now Carlos Sainz. I think it'll probably be about the same as it was last year. Who knows? One team that I am expecting to struggle a little bit is actually Red Bull. Max Verstappen has said during various press conferences that he's not exactly confident that Red Bull can repeat. And I'll be curious to see what the kind of pace that Red Bull has when we finally get to qualifying, because that's going to be real interesting. We'll get to Melbourne, we'll watch the practice, we'll watch qualifying, we'll watch a practice, I should say. But when we get to qualifying, that's going to be the big thing that I'm going to be watching, because I want to know specifically how fast is that Red Bull compared to the McLaren. I am fully expecting McLaren to go on a tear. I would not be surprised if Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri win the majority of the races this year. But again, you never know. I think Liam Lawson's going to have his work cut out for him. Number one, going in a car that's maybe not as strong as he would have thought it would be, and also being teammates with Max Verstappen, which in and of itself is a highly, highly stressful thing for a Formula One driver to have to do. But I think that he can probably live up to the expectations. He's a very good driver. He's very talented. He's done very good in the past. I don't really see any reason why he couldn't. But again, it's Formula One. Things look better on paper than they usually do in the actual race sometimes. Now, the other thing that you want to keep in mind as we watch Formula One this season is the amount of rookies. So I'll go through them. We got Jack Doohan at Alpine, Oliver Behrman at Haas, Kimi Antonelli at Mercedes, Isaac Hadjar at Racing Bulls, formerly known as RB, Toro Rosso, Alpha Tauri, blah, blah, blah. You know that. Liam Lawson, like I said, is at Red Bull, and Gabriel Bortoleto is at Sauber. So that's a lot of rookies that are going to be making their first real F1 Grand Prix start. Obviously, Liam Lawson, Jack Doohan are not doing that because they raced last year. But everybody else, first time in a competitive Formula One car on the grid, taking the start. I will be very curious to see how all of those rookies do at the end of the season. Also this weekend, we've got the Supercars series. They are in Melbourne as well for the Melbourne SuperSprint. Now remember, this is going to be 2 100-kilometer races and 2 70-kilometer races. So when we say sprint, I literally mean sprint races. Races that are probably the equivalent to a heat race in most any other racing series. These are really short races, but the reason why that they have to do this is because they're sharing a weekend with Formula One and Formula 2, and all of these races have to be done on a very, very rigid schedule. So these are very short races. Likely you won't see any pit stops whatsoever unless it rains. So it's going to be quite literally a sprint to the finish. Now, the thing that you got to keep in mind if you want to watch this is you can't do it legally. Remember, we've talked about in the past, the way the Formula One broadcast deal works is they don't let Supercars stream this event internationally for international audiences. So if you're someone like me who subscribes to SuperView for about $6 or $7 a month on YouTube to watch all Supercars practice, qualifying sessions, all that stuff, you're going to have to find maybe an alternative way. And I'm not going to say anything about it because not exactly legal. But like I said, you can follow along on Twitter, but also you won't see any highlights posted by the series on Twitter because they're not allowed to do that either. Rights restrictions. Aren't they just awful? But like I said to that as well, Formula 2 is also kicking off its season in Melbourne as well. So there's a lot of races going on down under. But that doesn't end there, because then we've also got the 12 Hours of Sebring coming up this weekend. I'm wondering, can Penske maybe go 2 for 2 to start the season? What about BMW MRLL? They definitely look very strong as well. Meyer Shank looking strong in the GTP class. Tower Motorsports in LMP2 looking for some redemption there. Be sure to watch the 12 Hours of Sebring this upcoming Saturday. I believe the entire thing is going to be on Peacock. I believe we talked about that in a previous Racing Report episode. So just be aware of that. You're going to have to probably stream a lot of things this weekend if you want to get all of the races. But as we said, we will talk about all of these races during next week's episode, because we are a weekly episode, and we thank you every week for joining us on this wonderful little platform we call WTHR Plus. So thank you guys for watching the Racing Report, and be sure to download the WTHR Plus app to get every single new Racing Report episode as it is released. As also, be sure to follow me on social media so that I will tweet out and let you guys know when a new episode drops. You can find me at rpeters33. I believe it should be in one of the lower thirds here. But then also be sure to subscribe to WTHR on YouTube, because if that's your preferred way of getting this show, we can help you with that too. You can get notifications whenever a new episode is released. But that is it for this episode this week. Thank you so much. My name is Rob Peeters, and this has been the Racing Report.